You're very welcome to another episode of Fishtalk.TV, the weekly online fishing show for all of us fish heads out there. Now tonight we've got a great mix of people on the show. We've got somebody from America phoning in. We've a lure expert, a man who's mad keen on all matters connected with lures for any type of fish, and he'll be linking up with us from the United Kingdom. But tonight in the studio, I'm with my great friend Jeff Cooper. Jeff Cooper, you're very welcome to Fishtalk.TV.
Great to be here, Alan.
Now, one of the things I'll tell you about Jeff is Jeff knows how to catch fish. In fact, I would say that Jeff could have on his tombstone when he goes in the ground eventually at the age of 96, this man could catch fish out of a damn sponge. So Jeff, how are things with you guys, and what have you been up to this year?
Oh, I've been busy all year, Alan. We've had quite a lot of visitors over. I've been taking people out fishing, general fishing. From now on I shall be taking people pike fishing, but for the summer we've been out catching a lot of tench and bream and of course a lot of roach and hybrids, and we've had a great summer.
Fishing's
really.
good.
Fishing was great all summer. If you know where to go and what to do, you're going to catch fish.
Yeah. Now, I always ask this of people that I meet. How did it all start? The young Jeff Cooper, you came from the UK, what part? Tell all our viewers where you were born and literally how you got into fishing.
Well, actually I was born in Sheffield, in Attercliffe. And my father ran a family fishing tackle business in Gower Street in the city centre. And whether I liked it or not, I'd got to go fishing. And I started fishing when I was about 4 years old. And my father taught me. And I used to have to wear a tin hat because if I did anything wrong, I got a smack round the ear hole.
So you wore a tin helmet?
No, I didn't actually, but I could have done with one.
You could have done with one, yeah.
And that's how it all started. And once you start fishing, you fall in love with the game, and it goes on from there, doesn't it?
And was your dad a tasty angler? Was he a good angler?
My father fished for Sheffield, yeah. He was a good angler. He won a lot of matches. And he insisted that I follow in his footsteps. That I started match fishing, and I started match fishing when I was about 8 or 9 years old. And I seriously match fished through well into my 30s, until I was about 40.
Now, just for those uninitiated by the term match fishing, as I think we mentioned in a previous episode, match fishing means tournament competitive fishing, and this man has won a lot of tournaments.
Yeah, I have. Big tournaments too. And in the old days, there was lots of club competitions, which I usually had about 40 or 50 anglers. And they were the ones that I targeted as a very young man. I'm talking about when I was about 12 or 13 years old. And I was good enough to win a lot of them or be placed in them. And then I graduated on from there. I fished in a team and big competitions then. There were 500 to 1,000 anglers. 500
to 1,000 anglers pegged along a river or a canal or whatever.
Places like in England on the Middle Level and the Witham and the Welland. These were common a day matches. These were matches that were on every 2 or 3 weeks, and we used to go. It was like a big travelling circus. You used to meet the same people, the same anglers, and most of us were in with a shout. If you drew the right peg, you were in with a shout, winning the match.
That's amazing. And back in those days, Jeff, describe the sort of tackle you had. Obviously, carbon, high modulus, they were never even invented.
Not
so
at all.
What are we talking about then?
Well, the rods that we used to use then, they were generally 13-foot rods, and they were made from a material called Spanish reed, and they had what we call a split cane tip, which was spliced into the Spanish reed.
That's very heavy.
3-piece rods. They were far heavier than they are now. I mean, rods today are the pencil thin and light as a feather. These things were pretty heavy, but you got used to using them, and they've got a full cork grip and sliding reel fittings. And
the reels, were they reasonably good?
Well, the reels that I started using when I was a very small boy, they were the old wooden style reels with green art rods, and then things progressed, and we got aluminium reels, Alcock's aerials and things like that, the standard centre pin reels, and the ones that my father and I used to use, they were called a Mercury, and they were made in Boston, in Lincolnshire.
In Lincolnshire, yes.
And my father used to travel down and pick them up, and we used to use these, and they were far advanced on most of the other reels. And then, of course, in the 50s, Mitchell came out with a fixed spool reel, and that took over. And fishing is, as you know, is a progression. And
It is. It's an education and a progression.
Absolutely. And if you don't keep up with the times, you've had it, you've lost.
Now, a man's name in the back of my memory from being a young child and reading about him was Mr. Billy Lane, W.H. Lane and Sons. He owned in Coventry, a tackle business. And he had a great influence on the early Jeff Cooper.
Yeah, he did. I mean, Billy was one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. And how I first met Billy, I met him in the marshalling yards in Wisbech on a big match. And he started to wind me up, actually, because I got a pair of red shoes on, red moccasins, and he took the mickey out of my shoes. And as a young, big-headed upstart, I took offence to that, and I drew 3 pegs away from him. We were on the middle level, and I thought, I'm going to have you today. And he won the match with £34, and I had about £6. And I thought, well, that was lucky. And the following week, we were fishing on the relief channel, and he drew opposite me, and he weighed £54, and I weighed £4, and I realised that this guy had got something that I hadn't got. So I contacted him at the shop, and we became great friends from then on, and that's how it all started.
Now, Mr. Lane, we're going to come back to him because to me he was one of the greats. An unsung hero in many respects. 1963, the first British-born world champion. Is that right? In 1963, he was world champion.
He was world champion on the River Moselle in Luxembourg. He won it with £10, 4 ounces. The first English world champion. And the odds were stacked against him because in those days, if you were fishing a running line, you were only allowed 20 metres of line. And all the foreigners were using poles, although they were wooden poles. But Billy went out there with his 20 metres of line and his built cane rod, and he did the job.
So another man who's also going to give us some of his hints and tips out of his great store of knowledge on all matters relating to lure fishing and lure fishing for all types of predatory fish is Dermot Ogle, who I spoke to earlier. Dermot, your early days was at fishing on the River Suck. Is that where you started your old craft of fishing?
It started off on a little river called the Ballinure, and then, which is a tributary of the River Suck.
Yeah.
And then onto the River Suck, and then the River Shannon.
And the River Shannon.
Yeah, around Shannon Bridge and Ballinasloe and that
yeah.
Country.
And Dermot, I've been reading your blogs for a while now, and I'm fascinated by what you write about. Really interesting stuff, and you're a wonderful writer, I must say. Where did it all start, and who was your influence on you, on the young Dermot Ogle when you were growing up?
The young Dermot Ogle. Well, I had uncles that fished, but mainly for salmon and such fish, and kind of went off my own bat. I didn't really particularly kind of get guided by anybody. I just had a longing to go out and go fishing and walk the riverbanks and throw a few lures and throw a few baits and stuff. And I wasn't particularly guided by anybody that I can think of, especially. I kind of found it all by myself, and that's really how it developed. And I developed it, you know, how I fish today is kind of how it's developed off, really. And I'm doing it on my own and doing it off my own bat, really.
And did you typically start off fishing for perch and rudd and bream and all of that?
Yeah, the first real contacts with fishing were on that small little tributary of the River Suck, fishing for trout, little brook trout, little brown trout and worm and stuff like that. And then eventually, once I found out my way onto the River Suck in Shannon, it was all spinners and plugs and everything for the perch and the pike. And eventually, that graduated into kind of putting maggots and worms down for the bream and the tench, which was roach, which eventually showed up in the system at that time. But I kind of did graduate back onto the pike and predators then, once I'd kind of had my fun with the whitefish and the bream and roach and that. I definitely found my way straight back to the pike and predators again, and haven't been able to shake the bug since, I suppose.
Yeah. Now, you'd be very well known in angling circles for your love and passion for lure fishing, and you're a bit of a maestro on lure fishing, but you fish for all predators, isn't that correct?
Well, if I don't take my bait, I'll throw it at them. That's it. You know, it's if there's a pike or a perch or a chub or whatever it is, I'll throw a lure at them, see if they take it. And yeah, I'm not crazy on the sea fishing. it might surprise some people. I get fairly seasick, but I've been known to get seasick on the lakes as well, a little bit queasy. But yeah, more fresh fly, perch, Xander, my newest passion.
Yeah,
my latest
and Dermot, I'm always fascinated by this. You've obviously got secrets to your success. Have you any tips for any budding viewers who are looking in, who are wanting to take up this really exciting part of our sport, which is lure fishing? Like, can you tell them about, like, is it the leaders you use? Is it the type of braid you use? What would you suggest people to try and get into the sport? What would you recommend as an all-round general purpose outfit for if it's spinning or bait casting? What would you recommend?
I'd say just get a bait in the water and keep it in the water. Keep casting, and when you're finished and tired of casting, cast some more. Keep casting. Once that bait's in the water, it's always fair game for a predator. And that's really the secret of it. And every time you hit a new venue, think of the depth, the predators, and the bait fish species that are available to those predators, and then use bait according to that. So if it's a really shallow bit, lake or river that you're fishing, or even a canal, then you need to look at baits that aren't going to foul up too much, and that also mimic the prey fish that are available to the predators. So you need to kind of think of that when you go bait fishing, and that's really the essence of lure fishing, is you're trying to give something to the predators that they're going to strike at and hit. Now that could be anything from a spinner, jerkbait, plug, spoon, whatever. It's just to be foul free and in the water and moving in a way that the predators find appealing, and they will strike it.
And if you I'm going to put you on the spot. If you had one go-to lure that I tell you that you now have no access to any of your other cache of lures, you've got one lure to choose from, and you're going to be stuck with that for the rest of your days when you go pike fishing, what one would that be, colour and size?
That's a question, because I've caught a number of great fish on all kinds of baits, and that could be soft plastics, crankbaits, jerkbaits, all others. I have a small selection of what I would generally use here, and I'll grab a couple. I've got stuff like this particular bait. That's it's called a Fanto Glide, and it's a glide bait or a jerk bait.
I love them. They're great.
Yeah, and it's got a bit of a rattle, and this fin on the back helps it to really glide and get the pike's attention. And that's been a very, very productive bait for me over the last couple of years. You can see by the amount of hook rash and teeth marks along the back of it that it's had a lot of attention from predators, and pike particularly love this bait. It's been a good one for me. Another one, this is called the BBZ by Strike Pro. It's an expensive bait, and it comes up close to maybe 30 euros, or in pounds, it's probably 23 or 24 pounds. But you can see by the amount of scar on it, and the paint is almost gone. But these have been a particularly good bait for me also.
And they're a swim bait, aren't they? They're a jointed swim bait.
They're a jointed swim bait, and there's just absolutely no wrong way to fish these baits. You cast them out, reel them back, or even throw them. They're shallow running baits, but don't let that put you off, because even in deep water, you can get a pike that can come straight up and strike shallow running bait even over deep water. So it's a good bet that's a good bait to put out, and it'll get attention of pike particularly. So those two, but then you ignore it. I'll give you three. I know you asked me for one. I've got to go three. It's soft plastics, not to be ignored. And again, here's another one with holes and scars and rips in it. Pike's teeth. Pike loves soft plastic, and big like this. Don't be afraid to go big. Big is good for pike, absolutely.
That's very impressive one. But what I love about your selection there, you've chosen three very distinct lures that really cover a huge array of waters, conditions and species, and particularly sizes of pike. Like, for example, you've got a glide bait, you've got then a swim bait, which you can twitch, troll, or you can just pull behind the boat or whatever, and then you've got your rubbers there, the plastics, which allows you to then fish through almost a weedless style as well. Yeah.
That's important, to have a range of lures. the trouble is, if you get stuck into one lure, and this is my only lure, and then you become a one-trick pony, and when you're facing a water that doesn't have the conditions or the situations that you're normally used to, then you're out of kilter. You're put on the spot. You don't have a backup lure. So
yeah, Dermot, you caught a wonderfully big perch recently, which to me is hitting Everest in the perch stakes. You had a 4-pound perch recently.
I did, yeah.
And Dermot, give me a bit of the background on that. What did you catch that on?
Wait, and you won't believe it. We're back to this bait. One of those in a different colour. This is
wow.
It's just 18 centimetres. So don't be fooled into thinking that you need to go a little micro bait for perch. The perch physically came straight up and inhaled it. Had no trouble in taking it.
Wow.
So don't go thinking that tiny little micro baits are the way to go for big perch. And once I've hit that fish, I'm now absolutely convinced you don't need to go for tiny micro baits for perch. Give them a meal. Don't mess about. But if I was going targeting the perch, big perch again, I wouldn't use glide baits like that. But certainly soft plastics, nice big jigs, good meal-sized baits for the perch. Absolutely, put them at them.
Well, that's one of the. That's very informative, Dermot. I want to say that you will be appearing with me on the show throughout the next year, and we really are impressed with your knowledge, and it's a great treat for me to talk to you today. Dermot, thank you so much for coming on Fishtalk.TV.
Thank you, Alan. Cheers.
You're watching Fishtalk.TV, the weekly live online show for all of us fish heads out there. Now today, as you know, we're talking about all matters in relation to Jeff Cooper and his fishing and all of that. But before we go there, this is an interactive show. We want your news, views, comments and opinions. So you can tweet us at FishTalk.TV. You can send us a message through Facebook or just keep watching the show. But it is your show. We want to hear from you and we want you to let us know what's going on in your patch. Jeff, we were talking about the great man himself, Billy Lane, William Lane, 1963, the first British-born world champion.
That's correct.
In coarse fishing, which was an amazing achievement, given the fact that the Continentals had a head start with this non-running line. It was fixed line on a pole. Now, explain your relationship and how you came across this man.
Well, I'd just like to say that prior to Billy winning the world title, the English had never been in the race. We're foremost now, win most of the world championships. Great angling, but then I suppose angling was in its infancy in England, and Billy brought it into the 20th century, and my relationship with him developed on the bank, and I was totally disillusioned at one stage because I used to have a ceiling of about 8 pounds in weight. I couldn't beat that. If I could win a 40 peg match with 8 pounds, that was it. And a lot of other anglers couldn't make that, and I did, but I wanted to get better.
Yeah. Now, he sent you a famous letter that he hand wrote.
Exactly. I was so disillusioned after the second thrashing he gave me that I sat down and I wrote him a letter to his shop in Coventry. And I said, unless I can do what you do, I might as well give the job up. I've reached a certain level and I'm not getting any higher. And if I don't get any better, I'll retire from angling. And I was only a young boy. Well, by return of post, I got a 4 A4 page letter, all handwritten, and a big parcel full of floats. Because Billy actually invented the modern day sliding float. And most of his angling was done on the sliding float. Anywhere over about 9 foot deep, Billy used to use the slider, which we can talk about again sometime. And he sent me a parcel of these floats, how to use them, and where to use them. And I thought, this is it. I'm going to be a world champion. And I was fishing a match actually on the river with him the following week. And I went along armed with Billy's floats and his detail and his drawings. And I started the match. And the first hour and a half, I got nothing else but tangles. Because if you fish a slider, you've got to flight it in. And if you don't
feather it down in a straight line.
Feather it in, otherwise it will come back and tangle on you. And I wasted the first hour and a half. And once I got the hang of it, I carried on. And I won the match with £12. And I wasted the first hour and a half.
And Jeff, what type of tips was he giving you? Like in that written 4-page narrative, he must have given you a lot of tips and hints about how to deploy this equipment and whatever.
Well, Alan, we'd be talking tomorrow if I talked about everything that he taught me. He taught me about watercraft. I mean, my father was good, but he taught me more about watercraft, and he taught me about baiting techniques, what to throw in, when to throw in, whether to use casters or whether to use maggots, chopped worm, all that kind of stuff.
And if you were to say to me the standout tip that really defined him, that helped you to really come into a different league now level, what was it, do you think?
Well, to be honest, Alan, I don't think there was one individual tip. The man just was a genius. He knew watercraft. He passed on to me what he'd got himself. Unfortunately, I picked it up.
But feeding was very important to him, isn't that right?
Well,
when you go to a swim, like if I be an uninitiated guy arriving at the bank of the Witham or whatever, he'd be able to read and determine what was required to start the ball rolling.
Absolutely. You need to talk about a lot about baiting techniques. Generally, anglers don't use the proper techniques when they bait. They don't understand the baiting technique. And when you look at the water, you've got to look at it and think, right, it needs this today, and you need to put that bait in accordingly. If you don't, it's wrong.
So Jeff, say for example now, you and I arrive on the bank, say, of a tributary up near you that flows into the Shannon, the mighty Shannon system, and we know there's bream in this area, but we're not sure how many or the numbers that might be in my swim. And you say to me, Alan, this is a really good area here. How would you go about exploiting the best out of that swim for me?
Well, first of all...
We're on bream now.
First of all, if I didn't know the swim at all, and or I'd not fished that swim at all, I'd probably plumb up the depth, find out what the depth is, and then you know what you've got to mix. These days, we've got a lot of modern baits, a lot of modern additives, and if I'm fishing for bream, and I'm fishing in fairly deep water, I use sieved brown crumb.
So it's very finely sieved.
Very finely sieved. I sieve it myself, and I use PV1, which is a binder, and PV1 actually is made from crushed biscuit, ginger biscuits.
Okay.
And it's done commercially now. And then I put in the bits that the fish like.
Like with bream, would you put in castor, chopped worm?
Casters and chopped worm.
Any sweet corn?
Sometimes,
okay.
Yeah. Quite often in the summer we put sweet corn in. And introduce a few balls and fish on it. And
when you say balls, would it be tangerine-sized golf ball, or would it be larger tennis balls?
Generally these days, because our bream shoals have got smaller, that's undeniable.
Okay.
I'll put in smaller balls, put half a dozen smaller balls.
Tangerine?
Yeah, maybe a little bit bigger.
A little bit bigger, okay.
And fish on it.
Yeah.
And then you've got to make the decision. Once you start catching your fish, you've got to make the decision whether you put a lot more in, or just keep it as it is, or a little bit less. It's like a game of chess. You've got to be one game in front.
And experience tells you that, doesn't it?
The experience
from
tells you that.
various situations that you're in, whether you made a bags of it from a previous experience or it worked in your favour, so then you have that saved in your memory bank.
Well, we all make mistakes. I mean, that's what makes fishing great. It's never the same twice, and we all make mistakes. And once you've made your mistake, what you've got to try and do is put it right.
Yeah, yeah. But what I'm fascinated is, Jeff, then you come to Ireland and you settled over here. What brought you over here?
The fishing and the people, really, and the Guinness, maybe in that order. But I came over here 24 years ago. I'd been coming over on holiday probably 15 or 16 years before that. My wife and I fell in love with Ireland. We fell in love with the people. And we were sat down by the side of the Shannon one day. It was late August, and we were in our camper van, and I'd got a glass of brandy, and so had the wife. And I just said to the wife, you know, I could sell up and move over here. And she said, well, why don't we? And that's how the story began.
And in all of these instances, you need to have a very, very cooperative wife. Isn't that right? Somebody that supports you. Otherwise it's a one-way ticket, isn't it? You need somebody who understands your love affair with fishing and the nature.
I have to say that Christine has put up with a lot. Over the years, I had a lot of friends that were involved in match fishing that ended up divorced, maybe not just once either. But she's been very tolerant, and she's helped me. and I couldn't have asked for a better partner.
And you're fishing now over here, Jeff. You started then a guest house business, a specialist guest house business. You're involved in the tackle trade over here, and you take in guests and you guide them and look after them. And how's business for you at the moment?
For me, it's good. For me, I get probably more people coming over than I should, because I try and split myself in a few different directions, and I try to look after people as they should be looked after. But unfortunately, the angling trade in Ireland has diminished beyond all belief, really, from when I first moved over here. Various reasons, but if you look after people and you get them catching fish, they'll come back.
And you've got a lot of repeat business, I know that. A huge number of your guests are repeats.
Well, virtually all of them.
All of them.
Yeah.
Now, I was going to ask you a little question, just leading me nicely into this new segue. What do you normally bring when you go fishing? If you're on the bank or in the boat, tell me what you normally would have.
Too much. You really want to know what I take?
No, but I mean, is it sandwiches? Do you just bring sandwiches in a bag?
Oh, you mean? I thought you meant fishing tackle.
No, do you bring sandwiches?
Oh, what do I take?
Yeah.
I take a few sandwiches and
the flask?
And a flask and maybe a bottle of lemonade in the summer.
Okay, well, our next segment is with our good friend Pascal Brissot, Brissot's Shore Snacks. Now, Jeffrey, I'm hoping that you're going to also pick up on this and learn the way I'm learning, that you can have very quick, easy fare, nutritious stuff in a few moments, and you're off the water maybe 20 minutes at most, having had tremendously nutritious warm food instead of the tired, limp old sandwich and the old flask of plasticky tea.
So Pascal, what have we got for Pascal's Shore Snacks today?
Our next today is something quite funny. We will do a potato pizza with no dough.
Pizza with no dough?
Yes.
I've never heard of this.
It will be tomato, bacon, potato, some pepper.
So it's pizza in a pot?
Yes, it is.
Which makes it easy for cooking on the shore?
Completely, because you don't have a pizza oven on your boat, no?
No, not on mine.
All right, okay.
Okay,
I will start.
Great.
Alors, olive oil, of course, because butter is too much fat.
And you have the pot very warm
Yes,
now.
very warm, like usual. Very important. You put your bits of bacon. Look, they are singing.
You can smell it already.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
You can use any bacon, you know, from any butcher or any syrup.
And you prepare all this before we come, obviously?
Yes, on you, the small bacon you can buy that way.
Yes.
They said it is more easy, it's save your finger maybe.
Yeah, I can smell it already.
Yeah, it's very nice, yeah.
So this does not take long to cook itself, the bacon?
30 seconds, look.
Yeah?
Yeah, because after, on the process, you will start boiling for 2-3 minutes, and that's complete.
Okay.
Red wine this time.
Where's my glass?
Where's your glass? Can we have a glass, please?
And a small amount of that, I take it?
Exactly, just a wee bit.
Yes. Look at the colours coming out from the fat in the bacon.
Yes.
Mixing with the wine.
Yeah, mix with wine, give it already some base to your bacon.
Mm.
You reduce a little bit to take the acidity of the wine, very important.
Okay.
After we will go for a tomato sauce that you buy in any shops as well.
Okay.
You don't have to do it because now they do a lot of very nice sauce.
Okay. You just add that in on top of the wine and the bacon.
On the wine and the bacon.
The anglers downwind of us will smell this.
Oh, exactly. One day they did a competition with 30 anglers. And I stopped 20 minutes to do food. Everybody was, oh, what's happened there?
Because I think most people that go fishing in Ireland, even myself including, you do things to try and be simple. You bring sandwiches and you bring a flask.
Completely.
There's no aroma off the food you're eating.
No, really. It's just you will feed yourself.
Yeah.
You will not enjoy your food.
No. There's no smell off the food even.
No, it's nothing. No, just, you feel hungry, you eat a sandwich.
Yeah.
But at least you will really eat a proper meal.
Yeah. I'm a big eater. I'm a big eater, so
but
when I go fishing...
We don't see it, actually. You're lucky, you.
But I think you enjoy your food more if you can smell
Now,
it.
of course, I will add pepper. Same principle. Pan fry your pepper at home.
Okay.
A little bit of sugar is very important.
Sugar?
Salt and pepper, yeah.
Okay, I've never heard of putting sugar on it.
Oh, you will. A little
Okay.
bit. Try at home. You see, give a sweet touch to the...
Lovely. And the 3 different peppers you're putting in...
Yes, for colour.
Yeah, it's great. So if I bring my partner out fishing or my son, and rather than bringing sandwiches, this will impress them.
Completely. You take 3 minutes.
And even I could do this.
Yeah, we will boil it now, you know.
Okay.
And when it's boiling, we will add our potatoes.
Okay. And you've pre-cooked these at home?
Pre-cooked, these are baby boiled potatoes.
Yeah.
Pre-cooked in the day before, they're cold. Chop it in a small piece and we'll add it there.
It all looks so simple.
Oh, it is simple.
Yeah, and it could make a very cold winter's day
Oh,
very enjoyable.
it is really nice, really nice. Okay, voilà. Oops. Sorry.
Okay, so Pascal, you said it was going to look like a pizza and taste like a pizza. It doesn't look like a pizza yet
It
to
will
me.
taste like a pizza, but I tell you the pizza with no dough.
Okay.
Alors we can show the pizza. Imagine that the pan is the dough.
Okay.
Look, voilà.
Yeah. Yeah.
We just
You
have
wouldn't-
the cheese.
You wouldn't get that in 4-star.
Voilà. All right, are you ready to...
I'm ready to sample. And
Perfect.
that is it.
Is it finished? Finished.
Yes. And
You see that?
so in less than 10 minutes I have a dinner
Less
in
of 10
front of
minutes.
me.
Yes. We have to share it, huh? Okay? These
No.
guys are very hungry. Look, the looks, huh? Alan.
But the viewers at home are looking at this and saying they've prepared this, you know, this is 10 minutes and we've pulled in on the boat.
Completely.
We've had a cold morning and I'll be warm in 10 minutes and go fishing now with more enthusiasm.
Exactly.
Okay, I'll try this.
Bon appétit, monsieur.
Thank you.
Oh. Maybe a wee bit of wine.
Oh, I can taste
Can I
the
have
wine.
a glass, please?
Oh, I can taste the wine. And the peppers.
Nice.
It's
mix.
absolutely beautiful.
Nice mix.
You don't need the dough. No.
Thank you
Pizza
very
in a
much.
pot is good enough for me.
That's very good.
Great.
You're watching Fishtalk.TV, the weekly live online show for all of us fish heads. Now, you know, I want you to tweet the show and get in touch with us. So tweet us at Fishtalk.TV. You can keep sending us in messages on Facebook or just keep watching the show. But now, Jeff, you're going to review books this week for us. And you have a little treat in store for me that brings me back to when I was a young kid.
I've got a hell of a collection of angling books, actually dating back to 1872. But you asked me what book really inspired me. Well, there were lots of things that inspired me, but certain books come to the fore.
Yeah.
And
particularly on a young child that's impressionable, but you had an inquiring mind like a sponge. So this is important.
well, this book, it's Mr. Crabtree Goes Fishing, and it was printed in 1952.
Can you show the viewers out there?
I certainly will.
You give it a good clean look there like that, Jeffrey. So it's Mr. Crabtree Goes Fishing, and it's 1952, is it?
Yes, and it was written by Bernard Venables. As you know, Bernard Venables was also a great artist, and it's totally illustrated all
Can
the way.
you show that to the camera?
all the
as
way
well?
through the book.
Look at that. Look at those lovely colour plates. Turn it like that, Jeff. Look at that. The pike there chasing roach. Beautiful, isn't it? And it was specifically targeting young kids. Isn't that right? Get them
Absolutely.
involved in the sport.
Any young boy that picked this book up, that started to read it and look at the illustrations, had got to be fascinated by the game of angling. And I know many lads that actually bought the book and did take the
Yeah.
game up.
Yeah. Now, what age would you have been when you received that?
Do I have to tell you?
Yeah, roughly. Right? Were you 5, 6, 8 or whatever?
I was 8 years old.
You were 8 years of
I
age.
was 8 years old.
And was it a Christmas present?
Actually, it was given to me not as a Christmas present, but it was actually given to my great uncle Frank by his wife Violet as a Christmas present. And when he'd read it, he passed it on to me.
That's on to you. And you
Yeah.
kept it, of course.
And I've kept it, of
And
course.
it's the first edition, which is a collector's item.
Absolutely.
And Jeff, the impact it had on you, describe it to me, because this is what I'm fascinated by. You know, books can have an impact on people. This one really showed you in a sort of pictorial way how you go about fishing.
Well, I was actually into fishing, but when you read the book, it inspired you to take it up and stay with it for the rest of your life. And it's quite a simple book, and it's simplified in a way that a young man would understand it and be able to take up the game. And,
Yeah.
and yes, I still read it now.
Yeah, and it's a timeless book. I actually have a copy of the second edition. It's called Mr. Crabtree Goes Fishing, but the subtitle is A Guide and Pictures to Fishing Round the Year, and that's what it's about. It was a whole sort of angling calendar, the various species, the different times of the year, and what to expect and how to attack the job. Isn't that
Sure,
it?
sure. And What came out around about the same time was the Angling Times magazine, and it sold for 4p old money then.
4p.
And Bernard Venables actually used to. It was his brainchild really, and he produced the Angling Times. And
He was their first editor.
He was the first editor.
And I remember, Jeff, that in the 70s, when I would go into Easton's and like a religious, like as if I was going on a novena, every week I'd buy Angling Times, Angling Spain. And my understanding was that, if memory serves me right, I think they had a readership of almost 400,000 copies a week, which was an enormous circulation.
They certainly did, yeah. I mean, it was the first proper angling publication.
A weekly publication.
And in very no time at all, it had got a massive circulation.
And you actually have a collector's item again here. Show up. It's the first edition, and it's dated Friday, July the 10th, 1953, price 4p, and Bernard Venables again here, who's the editor, was the author of these two books here.
Actually, he was, and then he brought this book out. It was the Angling Times book.
Roughly what year is that?
And I think this is about 53.
It's a beautiful book.
Yeah, 55. This book was first published.
Yeah.
And if you may, if I may,
yes,
could I quote from the book?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think this weighs up the game that we love. And Bernard Venables wrote, "Memory is a loving filter of past experience. On so much that is old and past and half forgotten, it sheds a mellow light that is perpetually like afternoon sunshine in October."
Isn't that beautifully written?
And it is, and I think it weighs up Bernard Venables' feelings towards angling, and mine too, really.
Yeah. So Mr. Crabtree Goes Fishing, that was a seminal book for you. It was seismic for you because it complemented the knowledge you were getting from your dad, who's your mentor, but also Billy Lane's coming into your life at the age of 12 years of age. And you had also this thing to always refer back to and dip into when you felt like it.
Well, I used to take this to bed and read it in bed at night, much to my mother's disdain.
But I must say, I always thought, what a beautifully simple book to produce, and yet so evocative for children. When you look at, it's almost like a cartoon, but the text is so informative, and you learn so much from it. And as a child, as you know, a picture paints 1,000 words. Children would feast their eyes on certain little scenes and absorb the material like a sponge. I mean, it was absolutely so cleverly done because it actually ticked all the boxes for kids.
It did, and to be honest with you, Alan, a lot of what applied then still applies today.
Absolutely. The only difference is now that our knowledge in relation to the species, the target species, has grown exponentially because of information from sonar and through biology. Correct. And all of that. And I think the equipment has moved light years ahead. But you know what? I don't think it makes us any better an angler. These guys, with today's tackle and stuff, would still wipe our eye.
Well, you used to get, as I said, Bernard Venables used to catch a lot of specimen fish. And as you know, the great Dick Walker, he caught a 44-pound carp from Redmire, all on very basic fishing tackle.
Very basic. Yeah,
very basic.
Absolutely. Now, Jeffrey's going to be staying with me throughout the show here. But I was in the States last year and I met up with this wonderful man, Glyn Austin, of Going Coastal Charters. And he's on the Sebastian River, just about an hour's drive south of Orlando. And this man knows how to find fish and knows how to put you on big fish. Last year when we were filming over there, we caught 13 redfish over 30 pounds in one morning in the company of Glyn Austin. So I caught up with Glyn earlier and he's going to tell us all about what's going on in his patch, which is the Sebastian River, on the south coast of Florida. Now, when I was with you, as I mentioned, we had the most awesome mornings fishing. Was that some kind of a record or an unusual occurrence that we had so many big ones in such a short period of time?
Not exactly, Alan. I mean, you know, you guys are pretty good fishermen, so it was easier to land a lot of fish in a quick time period like we did. A lot of people that aren't as familiar with fishing, you know, our average catch is 6 to 10 of those big fish a day when you're targeting the top water and then you're taking pictures. Yeah, as you remember, you know, we had to fight those fish in a 7-knot current. We had to land the fish. We had to run back up current, take pictures, and do what we had to do, then release them. So all that takes a little bit of time. But in a typical 4 to 6 hour trip, we're getting 6 to 10 of those big fish a day. Now, remember, it takes 10 to 15 minutes to land each one once you get it hooked. So a lot of that takes a little bit of time. Now,
I was going to tell the folks that, you know, you must, if you have the opportunity to go to Florida, you must go out with Glyn Austin. It is the most wonderful experience. He's a wonderful character to be around. He's a decent, kind guy, and he'll encourage you. If you're not really, you know, a really confident angler, you will be by the time you're finished your 4 hours or 8 hours with Glyn, depending on the length of your time on the boat with him. You will be a very, very capable and talented angler. And Glyn, I was going to ask you, at what time of year, if I want to come over, say, going after tarpon with you, when would be best to target? Is it late April into May?
No, it's probably more into the June, July time frame in the summertime. But then we also, towards the end of August through September, we get what we call our fall mullet run. That's when our mullet, which is our main bait fish here, they migrate back south, and those tarpon will follow those mullet schools. Now, along with the tarpon, you've got to deal with sharks. So you get some king mackerel in there and some other species as well. But probably, I would say June, July, and then late August into early October.
Now, you're for 4 guys, say, going out with you for a day's fishing, what's your rough tariff that you charge for that?
When we fish the ocean like that, and we're fishing what we call nearshore waters. Nearshore waters are outside the inlet along the beaches and stuff. It's $450 US for a 6-hour trip and $550 US for an 8-hour trip, and that's not per person. That's for the whole boat.
Well, that is amazing value, I have to say. Divide by 4 guys for that length of time, that's terrific. Now, over there, for example, when you go snook fishing, and I thought these line-siders, as you guys would call them, are an amazing species. They are gorgeous fish. They have a long black line along the lateral line, and they fight like demons. And you get them around the edge of the mangroves and any of the grasses and all in the shallows. Give me an example, Glyn, of this year. Was the snook fishing really good over there?
Well, yeah, the snook fishing was fantastic, actually. You know, we had our freeze in 2010, and we lost thousands and thousands of snook to the cold weather. Snook have rebounded really good the last couple of years. This is one of my best snook years ever. July, August, September, the snook bite was fantastic. Our average snook was probably 35 inches, which is about 15 pounds.
Wow.
Up to mid 40-inch range, which can get into the high 20s and the low 30-pound, depending if they're spawning or not. And where we target snook mostly, we target the bigger snook, and we target them in the Sebastian Inlet also. They like the structure, so they hang around the rocks, around the jetties, and they hang around in the inlet along the rocks also.
And of course, you also have such wonderful craft. It's very suitable for guys who want to fly fish for some of these critters, particularly guys who want to go for snook on the fly, or if you want to go for even redfish or whatever. And you have all that gear as well, Glyn, is that correct?
That is correct. I have all G Loomis fly rods. I've got a 7-weight, 9-weight, 11-weight, so we can target our trout inshore or our redfish inshore. We can also fly fish for those big redfish that you got on top water by fly. I actually caught my first one on fly this summer. Caught a couple of them on fly myself. And then of course we chased tarpon on the beach. And what's also fun on fly is false albacore, little tunny. We get those that run the beaches in close, and they're a lot of fun on a fly rod.
That is superb. And have you seen any great developments like this year coming on from the tackle industry? Because I know I always go to ICAST when I'm over in the States, and I didn't get to it this year because I was tied up on another project. But have there been any new developments that are exciting you at the moment?
You know, as I said, I'm a Shimano guy. A couple of the reels they came out with are really, really nice this year. One of my favorites is the Saragossa because it's got a twin drag system and it's a very, very smooth reel. Another one, if you're a jetty fisherman, the Aerotechnium is really nice. Minn Kota trolling motors came out with a very nice trolling motor this year. It's an auto deploy. It's completely automatic. You don't have to get down and deploy it. You just push buttons and you go. And that's a really, really cool innovation.
That is cool. Now, Glyn, I was going to say that for anyone going over there, they can go to goingcoastalcharters.com. Captain Glyn Austin is his name. And I can tell you that I had the most wonderful experience with Glyn over 2 days. We had horrendous weather when we arrived. We were in the middle of a tropical storm that brought down a lot of very coloured water with a lot of leaf litter and debris, which wasn't good for fishing by any means, and yet Glyn put us on the fish. So I can really, really recommend this man. He will look after you royally, you'll learn so much from him, and you'll have a wonderful time to boot. Glyn, we're going to keep in touch with you throughout the year and have you on as our regular update from your neck of the woods over there on the Sebastian River. Glyn Austin, Captain Glyn Austin of Going Coastal Charters, many thanks for coming on the show, and keep in touch with us and we will with you. Thank you, Glyn Austin.
Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate your time.
You're watching Fishtalk.TV, the online weekly fishing show for all you fish heads. I'm Alan Broderick. I'm in the studio today with my good friend Jeffrey Cooper. Jeffrey's going to be staying with us throughout the show. This segment of the show now is pixelated. It's our photo competition for all of you out there. And if you're not in, you can't win. So we want you to send in your photograph of that great memory. If it's a trophy shot perhaps, it could be a group scene with your friends or otherwise, it could be a quirky shot, it can be anything. But do send in those photographs, because if you don't send them in, you have no chance of winning one of our great tackle prizes. If you're not in, you can't win. Jeffrey, you've done a lot of travelling. I've done a lot of travelling. You've been to some very interesting places.
I certainly have, yeah. I've fished in an awful lot of places around the world. I've been in Africa and China, places like, lesser places I suppose like Cyprus, and I fish in India every year, and later next year I'm going to fish in Kashmir. I'm going to India on the 3rd of April, and in August I'm travelling up to Kashmir and fishing up in Kashmir.
That's a voyage. That's an odyssey.
Oh yeah.
It's a place I've always wanted to go to because of the turmoil up there between the Pakistan border and India. It was always sort of deemed to be a bit out of bounds for somebody like myself. Why would you even go there at the moment?
It certainly is to a degree now, but I've got friends that live in Kashmir, very well off people. And,
well connected, safe. So it'll be a safe trip for you.
They're actually gold and diamond merchants.
Oh, wow.
And they live on Lake Dal, an island in the lake.
Wow.
And they've been actually trying to get me to go for some time. And last year, I took the bait, so to speak. And I've agreed to go over in August. And I think it's going to be quite interesting because they want to take me fly fishing up in the hills via horseback.
That'll be a great trip.
And I've seen some of the water up there, and it looks absolutely stunning. But the lake that they live on, last year I took them some English magazines because they'd been trying to describe these fish that live in Lake Dal, these big fish. And I said, is it one of those or is it one of those? No, it looks like one, but it's not one of those. And he said, I have a picture. So the first picture he showed me was this most fabulous looking mirror carp. Unfortunately, they got it on a string because they were going to eat it.
They would eat it, yeah.
And it was almost black in between the scales.
How big was this one?
This wasn't a big one. And then he said, I will show you another. And they got it on a table, and he'd got his hands on it like that, and it was hanging off either end of the table.
So this is like a big fat pig on a table?
Oh, it's a big fat carp on a table.
And what weight do you think that was? 50, 60?
Oh, it was certainly pushing 50 pounds.
50 pounds?
Yeah. It was
and this was just a regular event for them out of this
huge
lake?
fish, and he said,
wow.
Oh, he said, the lake has got lots of these. He said, but we have a problem getting them out of the water. And I said, well, I'll come and show you how to do it. So next August, that's what I'm going to do. And
yeah, and for our North American guests who are watching in, I know that you folks regard carp in, shall we say, not very nicely. You don't really like them out there. Buffalo fish, carp, whatever. You just don't like these species. But you know, Europeans, particularly the Dutch, the British, the French, Germans, and even Irish guys will spend a fortune on their equipment going after carp. And Jeffrey's going all the way over to Kashmir, the foothills of the Himalayas, to pursue carp.
Yeah.
Jeffrey, are you feeling all right?
No, I shall enjoy it. People say, well, you know, you're sticking your neck out a little bit going up there, but I don't think I am because I shall be in good company.
And scenery, I believe, is glorious.
And the scenery is unbelievable. I've seen where they live and how they live, and I must admit that I'm rather partial to the food over there too. Now,
you told me that you had a very interesting involvement when you were out in Senegal. You went fishing one day and an amazing development took place, unfolded in front of your eyes as you went into the surf.
That's right, and in actual fact, the truth of the story is we shouldn't have been there. They just had a coup. And we were
this is West Africa, Senegal.
Yeah, we were having to drive drive. We hired a Safari Land Rover and a driver, and we kept getting stopped by soldiers, and we had to actually bribe them to let us carry on. And we came onto a long white beach, and we drove up the beach. There were no tyre tracks on it, and we looked out and we could see a shoal of tuna. So we stopped the Land Rover, and we got beach casters out, and we waded into the surf, and we put small bits of fish on, and we were lashing this beach caster out as far as we could.
Into a big surf?
Oh yeah, and by the time we actually walked back to the shore, the tuna were trying to pull us back in the water again. And it was an unbelievable afternoon. We caught, I don't know how many tuna, and the thing is about tuna, they'll fight even into 6 inches of surf, and it was an unbelievable afternoon. When we'd finished fishing, we carried on driving up the beach, and we saw large birds circling overhead, and we'd got some tuna, put them in the Land Rover, and we came across a village, and these people lived in a small village, and when we came out, they all came out. There were police officers, they were singing. It reminded me of something out of an African film. And on one side was the Senegal River, and the sea was on the other side, and these people actually drank brackish water.
Wow.
They took it out the river, and they lived on the fish, and the birds that were circling around were scavengers that came and took the waste that they threw away. And one of the things that will always stick in my mind was when we drove up the beach, there was thousands of crabs actually on the waste too. And as we drove up...
So they were scavenging on all the detritus of the human activity?
They were scavenging. And as we drove up, they all moved very quickly back into the sea.
Scuttling away en masse?
Scuttle away into the sea.
Wow.
And then we went into the village, and we stayed the night in the village, and we were made very welcome. And it was one of the nicer experiences.
That's an amazing experience, yeah. I had an experience in Kenya myself that I'll go to another time, but it was like a biblical scene where we're giving out giant kingfish, which were like a member of the mackerel family, to a lot of the people on an island called Kiwayu, about 6 miles from the Somali border, but that's another story, and that was an amazing experience for me.
I should imagine so.
One of the things, Jeff, that I hear all the time, like you do, because I've got my fingers on the pulse of what's happening in Ireland, and we're after getting a number of messages in from some of our viewers, both British guys sending them to us, and indeed French, and an Irish person sent it to us, that they are concerned about fish being taken out illegally out of our waterways. Both it's happening in the UK, but it's happening hugely in Ireland. It is a problem that needs to be addressed, and it's a political problem that needs to be addressed. Are you seeing a lot of this going on? This, what I would call poaching, but it's really industrial removal of fish.
Alan, it is our major problem at the moment. We have got some pollution issues, but a massive problem, I would say it is probably what the biggest problem we've got now is the removal of our fish stocks by, and I'm going to say, Eastern Europeans.
Yeah.
The new visitors to this country, they've no regard for our laws, they've no regard for the fish.
Yeah, it's going on in Germany, I believe it goes on in England, Britain I should say. GB have huge problems because of this, and I think it's a cultural problem in as much as they arrive here, historically they've always been doing this, but they don't seem to worry or care and focus about it's against the law.
They break our laws without thought. And they know they're doing it.
We need to educate people to not do this.
Well, you can educate them. I'm sorry, I don't care how much you educate them, they'll still carry on doing it. They said, we don't know. A case in point, about 3 weeks ago, there was a group caught, and they were told, stop doing it, go away. When the bailiff left, they returned and they removed a hell of a load of fish.
Well, it's a subject I want to come back to at another date and perhaps get one or two of the people involved from the actual official Ireland side of things to have them in studio to get this out in the open. I think it's a boil that needs to be lanced. It's been going on for 12, 14 years. There have been court cases, there have been major issues in the media, and there's a lot of denials going on that this is actually reality. I know it's reality. I've seen it firsthand, the devastating impact that goes on when you get uncontrolled rape and pillaging of our waterways. And I use that word very advisedly. They are taking all our fish stocks out and they're being used and sold commercially. And I regret and resent it hugely, like a lot of us do. But it's something we have to return to at another time because we don't have the information here tonight and to have the people that we would like to deal with tonight to talk to them about it. But it's something I think that needs to be talked about as a pan-European issue.
I get an awful lot of feedback from anglers up all around the country. And it's not a localised thing.
No, this is huge.
What we've got now, and I would like to make this point to the viewers, what we've got now in certain areas, we've got vigilantes, Irish vigilantes, who are taking the law into their own hands, and I can see where they're coming from, and I can understand the sentiment, but stop doing it, lads.
That's wrong.
Because if you do it, it's you that's going to be in trouble.
That's breaking the law.
There's cars being burnt, there's people being given a swipe round the ear, there's tyres being let down. Don't do it.
Yeah, and I concur with that. That's illegal activity and I'm not going to get involved in that at all. Now, Jeffrey, each week we put our studio guest through what we call the Fishtalk Challenge. And today, you're the man in the hot seat. So I'm going to get you organised and we'll see how you get on. Now, we have a 7-foot bait casting rod here for you with 30-pound braid. And we have a few little bits and bobs that will really help you adorn that. So we have a Dennis Pie dumbbell type float. And we have a small Magnum Rapala lure. Minnow bait there. So I'm going to now time you, Jeffrey, and I'll tell you what you're up against. We have at the moment the Fishtalk Challenge. Cathal Hughes, our twice world champion on our leaderboard over here. Cathal Hughes. So I'm going to bring it in now. I'm going to bring it over here. Just put it there for you.
This is very naughty, you know. I didn't know this was coming.
I think, Jeffrey, it's good for you. It's good for the spirit. Now, so what we do is this. I want you to thread that through here, through all of the 10 guides on the rod, down through here, through this, and then tie off a braid knot on the minnow bait. And I'll count you down a few moments. So you just have a look to see where everything is organised. We can move things around for a second. There you go. Just make life easy for you. And I'll click you there now. So I'll time you down a second. But here we go. Cathal Hughes, twice world pairs champion, is at 123.
Told me when to go.
Pascal, our journalist, is 157. And you can see there the descending order in which, and then we've got Paul Burke still at it, I think. So the Fishtalk Challenge starts now.
I think Arsus will be.
So Jeffrey Cooper representing Roscommon Leitrim area, a man of many talents, match angler extraordinaire. Oh, he's doing very well. 15 seconds gone and you're absolutely flying it. Very impressive, Jeffrey.
Not so far.
Oh, you're doing well. 25 seconds gone. Half a minute, Jeff. You're now under pressure because the lights are on you, the camera's on you, and it isn't easy. And I'm the first to say that. It's not easy. I've tried it. I've actually done rather well, but then again, I didn't really mind because I'm quite used to the cameras. But it's dexterity and it allows you to just prove that you can do it very, very easily. Or maybe in other cases it might be so easy. But I find it a difficult thing because it's finicky, shall we say. You're now into the dumbbell float, the famous Dennis Pie dumbbell float. You're now into a 1 minute and 5 seconds. You're absolutely flying along. Very impressive, Jeff. Yeah. So you've got 123 to beat. Mr. Cathal Hughes is on the top of the perch in that rarefied atmosphere of being leader. Yeah, you're now tying off. You've done the dumbbell float, which wasn't easy. You've done the 10 guides on the bait casting rod. And now you're doing your braid knot on the lure. It's going well, Jeffrey. Yeah. So 123 to beat. Well done, 145. 145. So let's see where you are on the leaderboard. And as the weeks pass by, we'll probably have people moving up and down. So there we go. Jeff Cooper. 145. So 123 Cahill Hughes is on a sale still. Next in line, Jeff Cooper. Put it there, buddy. You actually are number 2 now on the list. Third is Lerissier, and then it works down in that order. No, in fact, I'll tell a fib. Barry Darby's second at 128.5. Then you, and then Mr. Lerissier is your third. You're not second. But Jeff, you did rather well, because youth will out. As you can see, the two guys at the top of the pile.
You were sneaking.
Yeah, but isn't it interesting? It's a lesson for us all that, you know, things that we take for granted, and we see when our hands are cold in a boat, that's when these things become a problem. Sure. Now listen, you've been a great sport. You've been a great visitor over here today, and I really enjoyed your company.
And I've enjoyed yours.
Yeah, so we're back over here now, back in the studio again. Jeffrey's just calming down after that. It takes a bit out of you, doesn't it? Because it is a lot of finickiness. Look at that.
Fun.
You know,
Fun.
I'm a bit of a naughty boy. I chose that because it's not easy.
No.
I particularly chose that because it is not easy. And you've got 4 or 5 inches to get through there and this. But it's a bit of crack. And every week we'll just see the yo-yo effect of maybe a new leader takes over, someone gets displaced and goes up and down. And at the end of the year there'll be a little prize for whoever's the overall leader after a year.
But I won't win it now.
No, we will have you back. You see, you'll be back. And so will all these guys on throughout the year. You'll be in and out, and let's see how you get on. But, you know, we come to the end of another show that I've really enjoyed doing, having my friend Jeff in the studio. We're really going to look into moving along. There's a lot of topics, you know, we're getting information on, and people are sending us in a lot of messages, a lot of controversial stuff that I won't go into now, but we're definitely going to deal with these issues. They need to be dealt with and talked about openly in a calm, rational manner, and to have those in authority responsible for maybe policing and bringing in laws and to implementing laws to talk about how we can best deal with situations to protect our very, very valued and highly regarded fish stocks. But Fishtalk.TV, remember, is your show. It's for you folks to let me know what's going on in your patch. So please tweet us at Fishtalk.TV. Send us a message on Facebook, or just keep watching the show. But tonight I want to thank you all for watching, and we'll be here this time next week again. I want to thank Gary Finnegan, our producer and director, Lorna Finnegan for being our floor manager, and thank you again for watching the show. And a great thank you to Jeffrey, to the guys who were on our videotape earlier. You've got Dermot Ogle and you've got Lynn Austin over in Florida. Thank you all. See you this time next week. Have good fishing for the week ahead, and we'll catch up next Thursday.